that if something is over a camera and is over a phone, that it's not real, it's not harmful. I mean, it's the same with abuse, with online abuse and online trolling. People say the worst things. People say the worst. I've had people say the worst things imaginable to me, and sometimes I think that they don't realise how real it is and how impactful it can be on someone's life.
Well, joining me now is Dr. Laura Higson-Bliss, who is an online safety expert from Keele University. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the programme. Should anyone be receiving images like this?
Absolutely not. No one, regardless of what their job is or what they've done, deserves to be receiving images like this at all, I think.
Well, what can be done about it?
It's a difficult one, and we do tend to have this tendency where we go, well, this should be criminal, we need to be prosecuting these types of abuse, particularly that women are experiencing. And that is something that is on the government's agenda. So under the online safety bill, if it goes through in its current format, it will become a criminal offence to what's commonly referred to as cyberflash another individual.
I'm just going to stop you there, Laura, just because the line isn't quite right for us at the moment. Just stay with us. I'll pop you back through to the team and we'll just try and get you on a better line. Bear with us. Thank you, Laura. You're listening to BBC Radio Stoke. It's Susan with you for a Friday morning then. We're asking you to get in touch with this as well. If this is something that you feel comfortable talking about and you wouldn't mind sharing your experiences with us this morning, of course you can remain anonymous if you would prefer to. Just let us know, has this happened to you? Amongst my female friends, I don't have any that haven't had this. Whether they've had just, the odd message through Facebook from somebody they don't really know, but they've just come across them and decided, oh, you look quite pretty. I'll start sending you messages. And then the messages turn in a different direction. Or whether it's from online dating, friends of mine and myself included, having done this, have had pictures that I certainly, and they didn't ask for. And they've been vulgar. Didn't want to see them, never did. And then you block them and you get on with your day. But if I thought about younger people having to go through this, if I had a daughter, and I know what I really sort of learnt from the Emily Atack Am I Asking For It documentary was that her mum, Kate Robbins, just started crying and walked away and didn't want to read the messages, just found it too uncomfortable to deal with. How would you feel about it? If you can give us a call, it's 0800 121 8080. Start your texts with the word Stoke, send them to 81333. I think we can go back to Dr. Laura Higson-Bliss now, online safety expert from Keele University. Are you there, Laura?
I am. Hopefully we're on a better line now.
We are on a better line. Thank you for your perseverance with this. We were just talking before we got cut off about what can be done about people that are experiencing receiving messages like this. Can you just recap that for us?
Yeah, so when we talk about these types of abuse, it's quite common that we make comments about how this should be a criminal offence, how the criminal law needs to be tackling these issues. And it is something that is on the government's agenda under the online safety bill, which, if it goes through in its current format, will make what we commonly refer to as cyberflashing a criminal offence. But the criminal law can only go so far, and it's not till we actually change social norms that the law will actually take effect. And we need to go back to basics. We need to go back to education. This form of abuse that's being experienced, particularly by women online, very much falls within that definition against violence against women and girls. And we know that there is a societal issue with violence against women and girls. And until we actually tackle that, the online world is just going to reflect the real world.
There will be people thinking now, well, if we don't want to see these things, if we don't want to experience them, why are we on social media? Just come away from it.
There tends to be that sort of argument, but I would argue it's very difficult to come away from social media. So if we look at Emily, for example, and the job that she does, there is this sort of expectation to have a social media profile. And there's no doubt that she will have got jobs, for example, which has come through because she's had a social media profile. In my own job as an academic, it's quite common to have a social media profile. And I don't think if I didn't have that social media profile, I'd probably be talking to you today. So it's very much, you can't survive in some industries without that social media presence these days.
There is also the argument, isn't there, as well, that I know that people have talked about this previously, and I don't know, how much detail we want to go into at this point in the day on the programme, but when people expose themselves in public and people are on the receiving end of that, is it not the same thing but being done online? It's like me saying I'm going to go outside and I should just always keep my eyes closed just in case somebody decides to do that. If you want to get rid of your social media, do it for whatever reason, but we shouldn't feel like we have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is this disconnect between the real world and the virtual world, in that there's still this understanding that the virtual world isn't actually real, but it is very much real. And there's a lot of research about how people who are exposed to images online, it would be the same effect as if they were exposed to that exact same example in the real world. And you can't just say, well, just remove yourself from this particular area of social life, because that's a form of victim blaming. It's the exact same thing as saying, well, if you don't want to experience assault, don't walk home alone in the dark, for example, which we've seen quite a lot of that rhetoric in the past. And we cannot have that same rhetoric with the online world.
And what should we do if we've got young people in our family in terms of their social media? We're responsible as adults for how we deal with things. But if people now think, well, I've got a granddaughter who uses Instagram, I've got, children who do, how can we look after them better?
I think it's open conversations about what that sort of darker side of the online world, and there is a positive side, and I'm very much for that we shouldn't just keep going on about the darker side, but we have to have open conversations, and it's only through having open conversations that we can actually enact social change. And when it becomes socially unacceptable to do that behaviour, that's when we'll see a decrease.
Thank you so much for coming on the programme today, Laura. Really appreciate your time. That's Dr. Lauren Higson-Bliss there, online safety expert from Keele University.